Welcome again, everyone. This is our second Zip Leader training that we have put on that is for those that are leading in zoning interpersonal power. And it's also connected to your zip code, as you've heard at this point and have learned. We're so excited to have you all here and to get to really dig into what it means to being a Zip Leader and have fun while we're doing it. This is our overview here. We'll do some introductions. We have a small enough group that I think we can pull that off. And we'll lay a little bit of foundation about the importance of this type of work and what you all are really bringing to life as an incredible gift to the movement. And then we'll jump into some overview, some direct how-tos, things you might be wondering at this point and what this role can look like. And then that leading into building and understanding local power, which might add to things that you already know or refresh or be some new things. And then we'll have a very quick group activity right before the end there, before we energize ourselves forward into the rest of the week in August. And the year is a very big, crazy year, as election years and other things tend to be. So we'll kick off the introductions here, presenters for the evening, and then we'll continue to just popcorn it around to make sure to hear from everyone. Name, pronouns if you're comfortable sharing, where you're at here in the state or what zip code you're representing, and just your kind of general experience in organizing. Are you newer? Are you well experienced? Something like that would be helpful for us, knowing how to kind of tailor some of our messages tonight. So I will kick it off. I am Chelsea Alexander. I use she, her, aya pronouns. I am in Lakewood, Denver area, which is 80215 for me. And I've been working as the Movement Building and Volunteer Director with 350 Colorado for the last almost 3 years and have loved every second of it because I get to do fun things like this, like connecting with y'all here and empowering people to make the climate movement as impactful as possible. So with that, I will pass it to my teammate, Sadie.
Sorry, just trying to get my unmute button. Hi, I'm Sadie. I am the 350 Colorado Summer Movement Building intern. So I work primarily on this project, actually, with Chelsea and Shelby and Sierra. So this is like towards the end of my internship. And my zip code in Colorado is 80524. Currently, I am actually back at school in California, which my zip code is 92374 here, but my Colorado zip code is 80524.
And sorry, where is that?
Oh yeah, it's Fort Collins area.
Cool. I'm Shelby. I am in Lakewood 80227. And I have been working as a volunteer with 350 Colorado for about 3 years now. And then I will popcorn, I guess, to Ellie, please.
Sure. Sorry. I'm Ellie Andrews. I am in Greeley, Colorado, or Greeley, 80631, Weld County. And in terms of experience organizing, little to none. I'm coming at this more from as a climate scientist perspective. I'm a social scientist who works on climate and sustainability currently at the School of Mines. So nice to meet you.
I can popcorn it for you to Sierra.
Hey y'all, I'm Sierra, she, her pronouns. I am in Colorado Springs, and I have some experience as a volunteer, but the last year and a half I've been the communications coordinator for 350 Colorado. That's been so awesome. But I am newer to organizing on the ground myself, and so definitely ready to learn through doing some of that too. I will popcorn over to Rachel if you're ready.
Sure. Thanks, Sierra. My name is Rachel. Pronouns are she, her. I live in Boulder, Colorado. 80304 is the zip code. I also am pretty new to organizing. Like Ellie, I'm coming at this from a research standpoint. I work at the World Resources Institute, so a lot of time in front of a computer. Looking forward to getting out in the local community and doing some work with people. So I'll popcorn it to Anna. That's okay.
Hi, my name is Anna. Pronouns are she, her. As you can see, I work at EcoCycle in Boulder, but I live in Westminster. My zip code is 80030. I do fundraising for EcoCycle, and I've done a variety of like volunteer organizing sorts of things, but I've never been like in charge of much. So that aspect of it is pretty new to me. So who's left? Let's see, Jenny.
Oh, yeah. Um, yeah, pronouns for me are she, her also. And I live in Denver and my zip code is 80220. And yeah, I've wanted to get involved with 350 Colorado for a long time, and I'm finally coming around to doing that. And I'm pretty overall I'm pretty new. I'm just a newbie with organization and all of that. So has everybody else been introduced?
A couple more. How about
Oh.
Taj?
Hi everyone, I'm Taj, he, him pronouns. I live in Boulder. It's 80303. Yeah, I was like a student organizer for a couple years, and then Serafina and I have started a little organization in Boulder, doing some similar stuff to I think ZIP, so excited to start on this. Serafina, you want to go?
Yeah, I think I'm left. Hi, I'm Serafina. Pronouns are she, her. I also have a decent amount of experience organizing. I worked for CU for a while doing outreach and student organizing and community building there. And since then, I've kind of shifted more into wider community organizing, and I'm really passionate about climate communication and like hope-centered messaging and using art and music and stuff. And I've been wanting to do neighborhood-centric outreach for a while, so I'm stoked that this was an idea and stoked to be a part of it. And my zip code is 80305. So it's fun. It sounds like Rachel, Taj, and I have a similar zone. Maybe we can all collaborate in Boulder.
You took the words out of my mouth. It's really fun to see when things are lining up like that and connections can just start right off the bat. Thanks so much, y'all. Really appreciate you sharing and getting to hear a little bit more about you. Because here's the facts then, and how it connects back to the vision and how you all are again helping transform the local climate movement in Colorado. There are 7 zip codes then represented amongst this group here, not counting the presenters. And collectively, that brings us up to about 12 ZIP leaders now that have stepped into this program in the last month across the Front Range, primarily at this time. But that really is exciting to see us moving towards that goal of having a zip code leader, a ZIP leader for each and every one that's in Colorado. And there's over 500. So big shout out to Good Boulder County Energy here tonight. Shout out Arapahoe County and Weld County. These are the different ways in which we will continue to show our power together as ZIP leaders, which is something we'll talk about here in just a second. So to bring us into our second part of the agenda here and just a little bit around setting the foundation, you know, some of you, it sounds like, right, have had some experiences with 350 Colorado before, so this might be just a refresher, but just to make sure we're all sharing that same kind of mission and vision. 350 Colorado works to build a powerful grassroots movement that is working to solve the climate crisis and transition us to a sustainable future. And we primarily see as keeping fossil fuels in the ground as a way to really mitigate the climate crisis considerably. There's a lot of ways to go about it, and there's a lot of wonderful groups in the state that do work that we may not focus on, but I just want to kind of name that as something that's really critical to the work we do. And as we move away from the things we don't want, we're putting in the place the things that we do want, right? The local solutions that community leaders know of, whether it's regenerative agriculture or better microgrid electric distribution, less centralized power in our utilities, what have you. There's a lot of options there. So it is also a really important part of how we see through our work. But we can't do any of those things really without having a huge, powerful, interconnected, passionate group of people like you all that are creating the movement on the ground and bringing it to life each and every day. So in this work and in the broad scope of all the work that 350 Colorado does, we're going to keep aiming to engage all Coloradans because everyone has a role to play. And if that is something that's useful for you and you're organizing in this role, I think it's good to get people to think about activism as something that's just a part of who we are as humans, right? We act in greater service than just ourselves. And I don't want to harp on too many points about why climate action is important then as other reasons, but want to make sure you have some key points here. You know, things that come from groups like the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, they even recognize as a global entity that it's the local stuff, the cities and the regions that really are going to understand what kind of mitigation and adaptation it's going to take to transition us into a more sustainable future. And this role is a direct part of that. We're not going to stop trying to tackle the climate crisis at the national or international level, and we still have participation in that as an organization. But, you know, when we approach things from the local level, these problems that feel insurmountable start to feel pretty tangible. Because you all have lived in your communities for varying amounts of time, and maybe you know a lot or a little, and you're somewhere in between. But ultimately, through your connections and your ability to unite more people in your neighborhoods, those solutions become more clear from a climate action standpoint, and that you all know what you need most. And we know what we need as Coloradans, too, for other reasons. Every action counts, every little bit, it all adds up. Phrases like death by 1,000 cuts, I don't know if this is the best analogy, but that activism is the collection of many actions leading to that change we want. So just as a last point here, and then I will shift gears, you know, some positive aspects of local action we also want to draw out have to do with the responsiveness that is possible, the real legitimacy that comes out of that, and the ability to just see adaptation and knowing that if we're going to change our nation at a large scale or all of the nations across the globe towards more sustainable practices and regenerative ones, it's probably going to get figured out in small little pockets and communities across the world and then further be adapted potentially for larger use. So I like to draw out the example that came out earlier this year from California. I don't know if anyone else had read about how for the first time the state derived most of its power from solar and wind and not from fossil fuels. And everything leading up to that point had suggested that that was not going to be possible for years, if not decades. So things are moving faster than we sometimes also know and can anticipate. And again, that responsiveness that can happen from local leaders like yourselves to really stay connected to what is happening and being flexible to things as they change, much like it did in California, I'm sure, to get to that point. That's what's going to lead us to, yeah, that future we want. So that's a little bit around foundation. I will pass it over to Shelby here on some overview.
Yeah, thank you, Chelsea. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of an overview on what it is like to be a ZIP leader, and then we will get more into the details. So first, we're going to talk about how ZIP leaders are helping to achieve our goals and mission. 350 Colorado's mission is to build a powerful grassroots movement that solves the climate crisis and transitions to a sustainable future. So doing some of these things is going to help towards that. And this is really about spreading the word on the ground level and really doing that grassroots work. So generating the people power we need to create change. There's been some research done that shows that about 3.5% of the population needs to be activated in order to create real change. So that is one of the goals that we are working towards. And just in general, uniting more people around the climate, about the climate crisis and the solutions. And then of course, modeling the behavior that you want to see. Next slide, please, Chelsea, thank you. So the goals of a ZIP leader are pretty simple. Just mostly engaging with community members in your zip code in ways that you feel comfortable. And then it's always good to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. And we want to grow and interconnect the climate movement in your zip code and beyond. So like we have some neighboring zip codes on this call, that is exactly the kind of thing that we want to be doing here. And then just sharing who 350 Colorado is, what we do, and how we can support, answering questions as best you can. And of course, you can lean on us for that as well. And then just having fun. Next slide, please. Okay, so what is expected of a ZIP leader? This is, let's see, the overall objective is not for you to solve the climate crisis, but for you to build and empower the community in your zip code that solves the climate crisis. Again, focusing on that grassroots up emphasis instead of top down influence, and just being ready to collaborate and work in partnership with others and across differences, and always be kind and courteous. So some more specific expectations of a ZIP leader, and these come from the position description that most of you should have seen. And if not, we'll definitely get you to that. But yeah, just communicating actions and events and opportunities in your zip code to other activists, to the 350 Colorado team, and participating in the events, potentially helping to organize some of those events, or yeah, if you're able to, and then cultivating relationships with other activists, representatives, and policymakers in your zip code, and recruitment of other activists. And this is a group effort for sure. So you'll be able to delegate some of the tasks to others and help distribute the efforts accordingly.
Thank you, Shelby. Yes, not an exhaustive list and not all requirements by any means, but ways to kind of get creative juices flowing and thinking about, yeah, next steps, being a ZIP leader. So let's shift into some how-tos. And I guess just before that, any questions from anyone, anything we can speak to? Yeah. We also have the chat, of course, is another space for that, but okay, cool. And there will be more chances as well. So let's look at two really critical pieces of, yeah, being a ZIP leader, being a successful one. The first one being really what is a ZIP list. So essentially, each ZIP leader has a tool, and a couple of tools that is, but one in particular that is the most important, and that is the ZIP list sign up. The ability for people to get connected to you and start to receive either maybe email communications, meet up to have coffee, help put an event on. Without knowing who those other folks are in your zip code, yeah, it's really hard to obviously do the ZIP leader work well or easily. So from the 350 side of things, we have members or people on our email distribution list in most zip codes in Colorado, not every single one. But I'm willing to say for all the ones that are here tonight, we definitely have a good number of people. So those are groups that we can also activate with to encourage to join the ZIP list of their area, and that way more communications can start to flow from that point. Real relationships can hopefully be cultivated from that point as well, because these are your teammates. And as Shelby said a moment ago, everything should not fall on your shoulders. It should be an activated network of leaders that are pushing things forward. And I like how Taj had said it earlier in a conversation we were at, the mycelium network of activists, if you like fungi and things like that. that would be a really neat way to visualize it. So I started to get a little ahead of myself in talking about ways in which the zip list or your zip list starts to grow. 350 Colorado staff and activists are here to help be a part of that, and we will show you in a moment what the forum itself looks like. But from day to day, it's a really easy way to realize the aspects of this role. That is to find your neighbors, the coffee shop that's on the street from you, people that might just want to join that list of yours, and then start to build more community and connection from it. So without me, saying it too much more, any ideas that come to mind when you start to think about who would be someone you would think about asking and joining the zip list for your area? I think people are thinking. You got something related to that, going down to the coffee shop maybe at the end of the street. Anything else?
I think something I might do is like try to form more relationships with the people on my street and like super close by. So I definitely don't know everything. So maybe I'd try like putting on a small gathering of like, oh, let's all get to know each other, or I don't know, dropping off some sustainable baked food or something, just like with a note of like, hey, like I want to take more climate action, like join this group chat, or like let's all have dinner together, or some sort of beginning connection just to establish more of a relationship.
I love that. Spot on.
I can say something. You know, I've been in my house now for 10 years and I know a lot of our neighbors, so I can just go knock on doors. I've already brought them various things that I've made at different points. And I mean, honestly, I walk around and like can talk to people in their front yards. So, I mean, my job is talking to people. So I feel comfortable just kind of bugging people.
For the best reason of all, right? In this instance, protecting the planet.
I guess in the same way, I've lived in my house in a little suburban area of Greeley for 3 years, and we've been talking for ages about having a block party, and it's been on the list. I have reasons that I haven't done it yet, mostly my 2 small children who are about to come in. But anyway, it's on the list and a great way to meet some of the people who I mostly just kind of wave to in passing.
I love it. This is a very relational minded energy right now, and I'm very here for it because that is really what is the heart of this role, and making it hum, hopefully seamlessly. Excellent ideas. We'll kind of circle back to an exercise similar to that by the end of tonight. But just as one more thing to share here with you then, to give you the visual of what we mean about this zip list sign up. It's this very simple looking form that you see here. You'll get your hands on this right after this training. We'll send an email tomorrow or Friday that has all the tools and follow-up that you need if you haven't already started to get some of those things from us. But this one will be highlighted as that big tool. So if it's a link you keep on your smartphone, or you have a printer or access to one and you print out a QR code that takes people to this, we have also tools and things as ways to make that as easy as possible for you, and that you don't have to go about doing anything too difficult to make it work. So, perfect. Well, with that, that wraps up the how-to and zip list. I'll pass it to Shelby or Sadie to talk on communication how-tos.
It's like, no, it's me. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about communication real quick. So we want people coming into this role to feel comfortable talking about climate issues, just transition, pollution with their people who they're trying to recruit for their zip list. So, you know, sometimes obviously you're going to be interacting with people who already know a lot about the climate and therefore don't need all the facts, don't need a ton of new information. And other times you'll encounter people who don't know much. So sharing a bunch of basic background might be a little bit more helpful for those people. Bottom line, we want you to be honest, and when you don't know something, it's okay to say that. We're trying to make authentic connections. You know, not give people every piece of information all at once. Chelsea? So here are a lot of this is probably, if you've ever done any organizing before, pretty familiar stuff. You want to ask people what they already think about an issue and really genuinely listen to their response and keep an open mind. Sometimes asking why can come across as judgmental if somebody is feeling already kind of sensitive about something. So generally it's kind of best to avoid that. Focusing on shared experiences and values you already have with people can make people feel really connected to climate change, as well as specific impacts that people might feel more in their area than others. So if somebody is really interested in the economic impacts of climate, the conservation biodiversity aspects, those are all things that you can address in trying to communicate with somebody. And that is a really good starting point for building communities around better climate organizing. We also generally suggest that people focus on feelings and their own story and the stories of others, rather than trying to just drill down on the facts all the time. Make sure that people know about the facts, because people tend to connect a little bit more with what they share with other people, obviously, than just, here's all the data.
No.
Chelsea? And then we do want to inform people about sort of follow-up process. It's not all just filling out the form. The movement building magic, as Chelsea would say, happens after initial contact, usually when you're having a sort of one-on-one interaction with somebody, or you're hanging out with them at an event, or you're having a meeting with them online. Any of these things are possible. So making sure that anybody interested in joining fills out the zip list form so you can continue to keep in contact with them. And then reporting any concerns or questions you couldn't answer to 350 Colorado staff, and then continuing to follow up with people on your zip list on a regular basis, potentially getting them connected to actions in your community that are happening, having events with them. All of these things are options depending on your level of availability for the position. So just making sure that you're following up in whatever way is your style and works for you. Okay, the next part of this training is about the fact that zip codes are really complicated and overlap with all kinds of other extremely complicated ways of slicing and dicing human communities. So we're going to talk about a directory that we're trying to build. So a zip code has a bunch of different other things that intersect with it. Obviously, it represents the postal designation of your city, your street, potentially a larger neighborhood that you're a part of. And but it also interacts with things like which city you're in, which county you're in, which congressional districts you might be in. Chelsea? So you're going to be, as a zip leader, responsible for understanding and thinking about those kinds of intersections that happen within any given zip code. So one of the first tasks we're going to ask you to do in the next couple of days will be to do some research and add what you find about your zip code to a directory that will help other zip leaders find you, and will help people on staff know who's a zip leader where and what's going on in those areas. So the zip leader directory is a beautiful filtered spreadsheet with all kinds of information that is already added to it, such as the zip code, sometimes the multiple cities or the single city that the zip code is in, and then a general population estimate of that zip code. So you'll use a map online that we found and is linked in our instruction sheet to help identify different components of this directory. And Chelsea, if you move to the next slide, we can start talking about that. So we're going to use it as an example, the zip code in Lakewood, 80215. Lakewood, as a city, has 10 different zip codes within it, and there are 41 zip codes in Jefferson County. So that's a lot of zip codes that touch 80215 or around it. So as we know from our training today, a lot of zip codes are right next to each other. So that is potentially a useful collaboration to keep in mind. So one of the things in the directory is going to be the city and the zip code, and also the county that city is in. Chelsea? 80215 inside of it, not around it, also overlaps with two cities, so Lakewood and Wheat Ridge, 3 House districts, Colorado 23, 24, and 28, and 2 Senate districts, Colorado 20 and 22. So knowing about those things, kind of knowing who the representatives are in those different districts and what's going on there can be really helpful to your job as a ZIP leader, but is also helpful in the spreadsheet, because if we're trying to figure out, or you're trying to figure out who else has the same senator as you, who else has the same House rep as you, the directory will be able to help filter those things out and tell you who else is in that area who is a ZIP leader currently. And now I'll pass it to Shelby, who's going to talk about perfect transition, knowing your representatives and figure out who they are.
Awesome. Thanks, Sadie. Yeah, so part of being a ZIP leader is going to be cultivating relationships with your representatives at the city, state, and county levels, and helping your ZIP list connect to them as well. And if you guys have a lot of experience organizing, you might have already started cultivating relationships with them. But if you have not, that's totally okay. We will provide some links so you can find your state legislator or your other elective officials. And you can always just Google the city that you live in, plus city council or county council. And you can find meetings that are open for the public to attend. And then this is going to vary for each city and county. So if you need help finding this information, please let us know. And then there are many ways to connect with your local representatives. They really want to hear from you and want to know what you care about. So you can simply reach out to them via email, introduce yourself, let them know what you care about. You can sometimes sign up for a newsletter that they'll send out, and they might have events or meetings where you can, meet with them and talk about issues that matter to you. Other ways that you might want to stay informed about things going on in your city are signing up for like a city newsletter, if there is one, where they might talk about events that are happening and news. And then again, attending those city or county council meetings could be good. These are just a few ideas, definitely not limited to this list. And definitely make sure to delegate some of these tasks to your ZIP list as you continue to build your community. And I will hand it back to, actually I'll hand it to Sierra.
I was going to call out quickly there too, the great question that was posed in the chat and not give such a nebulous answer, because that's valid, Anna. We may not all be like rainbows and butterflies with our representatives. They may not be fully aligned with believing in the climate crisis or taking action on it. So, yeah, I was curious if anyone else had any thoughts on this, just quickly, of ways.
I've contacted my legislators for various other things multiple times. One thing in particular that is currently ongoing, and have been respectful, but very straightforward. And so I'm worried that she'll Google my name or look up my name and be like, I don't know if I want to talk to this person. That said, I am connected also to city council. So maybe that's a better way to go.
Maybe one quick thought is, have you only had digital communication with them? Have you gotten to meet in person before?
Not in person.
Okay. I wonder, that's just very off the top of the head tonight, but we can totally connect outside of this. That maybe going to one of those kind of standing community event meetings that they're at, or like the kind of open hours that I know some legislators do. I wonder if a little bit of humanizing in person could start to, shift it the right way. And make it fun maybe as an outing for, other people in your ZIP list to get to know them too. Okay, cool. Thank you for bringing that forth. That was very good. Okay, I'll also pass it over to Sierra here.
All right, cool. So we're just going to do a quick little group activity. There's going to be a few hypothetical situations pop up on the screen, and the idea is y'all let us know what thoughts come to mind. So what would a zip leader do in this kind of situation? And you can just go ahead and either raise your hand or write a note in the chat, or just pop on and let us know what you're thinking about. But say you find out a festival is happening in your local community, what are some things that you would do as a zip leader? Yeah, see if you can table. That's a good one.
Well, if you can't table, you just going and talking to people seems like a great use of this like shared space with your community, talking about maybe getting them signed up for the zip list if they're interested and engaged on climate topics.
Love that. Yeah. So if you missed a deadline or something to sign up to table, you could just go and chat with people. That's so good. Offering support, reusable food materials, plant-based options. Thank you. I love that.
I would want
Yeah,
to find out if it's free. That would be something I'd be curious of. I know a lot of festivals are, but how accessible is it?
yeah, good one. All right, and we had a few more answers to what you might do, but those were all great. And thank you so much for jumping in. Oh,
Sorry.
this is funny. Yeah, our little animation doesn't work quite right.
The tech irritation from last time that I thought I fixed. Yeah, it pans up.
Okay, let me see. I will go to the, okay, so see if there are any opportunities to table. If so, work with 350 Colorado to prepare for the tabling. We do have lots of supplies that you can use for that so that you're not having to print stuff or think of things to put on your table. We've got all of that stuff kind of for you. Attending the festival or recruiting some people off of your zip list to come with you or to go if you're not available. And yeah, just chat with people exactly like you'd said. Yeah, grow the climate movement and share who 350 Colorado is, what we do, what you do, how you're involved, and recruiting activists for your zip list. All right, our second little situation is you have a new neighbor. What do you do?
Feels like the most obvious answer.
Yeah, I would say my answer is the same. It's just a lot lower stakes now because you just have to like knock on your neighbor's door, and you don't have to like if it's your neighbor, there's obvious reasons to want to meet them and stuff. But then it could be a good way to segue into talking about 350 and other things that we're doing as leaders.
I love that. Yeah, garden goodies. Thank you. That's perfect. Invite them to volunteer. Yeah, at a community garden. It's a great idea. Bringing over food, maybe vegan. Love that too. Okay, cool. And we had a few ideas that we wrote down as well. Introduce yourself. Yeah, find time to talk with them, kind of get a gauge on what they care about. Ask them how they feel about climate change, pollution, or a just transition. And some people will be less willing to talk to you about things if you use those kinds of keywords. But you'll find that some folks, even if they are not a fan of speaking about things like climate change, they might be passionate about regenerative agriculture or water usage or pollinators. And a lot of those things you can sort of use as a little bridge to connect with them and talk about these issues, because they're all so connected. Okay, Ellie says mutual needs, things to give. Yeah, childcare, foods, kind of just, oh my gosh, I love that so much. Yeah, just form that kind of connection with them and get to know what their needs are and how you can support them and have that mutually beneficial relationship. I love that. Yeah, great. We had a couple more share about 350 Colorado, what we do, and I think most importantly, kind of like what you do and like what you focus on in your zip list and those kind of top projects that you and your list are working on and thinking about doing. And then recruiting them to your zip list, see if they'd be interested in any upcoming events that we're putting on.
It's a truly brilliant group here. I've loved all of these ideas, and the fact that we made sure to touch on mutual aid as something as a real part of strengthening our communities and creating resilience. It's just, yeah, climate movement. Every movement needs more of that. Keep ourselves going. Oh, thank you for troubleshooting the small tech difficulties there. I'm sure the third time we do this training, we'll have gotten that slide right. I'll have fixed it. But we are in our last section here to wrap us up for the evening. And of course, again, as questions come through, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll have time at the end to touch on these things. So to energize ourselves forward here and really start to put rubber to the road, couple just last tips here, and these are optional and maybe you've done some of them, but if you want to build on the knowledge that you have about 350 Colorado and feel more equipped in talking about who we are, we have a volunteer orientation that's recorded and very short and sweet that I'm very happy to share with you, and I'll go a little bit deeper on some of our bodies of work, where we come from and whatnot. So that'll provide a little bit more towards your foundation. But then also, as many people mentioned here, thinking of some type of a low-hanging get-together that makes sense, that aligns with other things you like or want to do. That could be a really great way to just bring people together in a low-stakes, more comfortable situation. Because as those relationships build and you get more feel for what this looks like in the role, having the means to delegate tasks, which might come to you easily or a little bit more difficultly, but it is something that we're here to help with as well and make sure we have distributed leadership happening. And as we touched on earlier, finding a way to keep in contact with the people on your zip list. That might be emailing, it might be texting some of them, it might be calling. Just kind of figuring out where you want that to land for yourself and as you build more community and roots in your community. And keeping the sign-up form for your zip list handy in different ways is a good tip. And yeah, taking advantage of the resources and network here between myself and Sierra and Shelby. And I want to say Sadie as well, but with internship wrapping up and school getting underway, I won't pin that to you. But I want to take this moment too to give huge praise and gratitude to Sadie and her leadership in this project coming to life in this way this summer. Just really could not have made it happen the same way. So thank you so much for that, Sadie. So as one last open-ended question for y'all before our other final two slides, what's everyone thinking? What's that first action you might take as a zip leader? Sadie shared about getting the directory filled out, and that's just a little bit of research and plugging in some information. What else are folks thinking? Feel free to drop in the chat. Come off mute. Yes, long delayed block party. That's such a good idea. Hopefully being a little less hot out as well. A little bit more of a cool block party. Nice. Any other community events, some door knocking perhaps?
I wanted to mention that for those of us who haven't lived in our communities for a long time and don't own property, you can like try to build a relationship with your landlord is a cool way to go, who is probably more hooked into the local, been there for longer, more hooked in.
That is genius. That is very smart. Love that. And I love that in the chat too, Serafina. Get together energy with concrete asks and follow-ups ready. Yeah. That's a key part of good movement building, getting people off the ground. And if folks feel like you're short on things to plug them into, we got options.
I know
Yeah,
next door is kind of a cesspool at times. I actually got off of it and I'm thinking of rejoining, and that might be a way to just like gauge some interest. But who knows, you might get some weird pushback. It's a weird place.
It is true. A little trial and error energy heading into it, knowing it may serve in some ways, but not always. Anyone knows of other cool alternatives to next door too, feel free to share with the group. Great. Thanks, y'all. Just want to make sure folks feel like you have access to options, that your creativity is flowing, and that you have a way to really just make this your own and make it grassroots, because again, that's where the magic happens, and that's why people stay connected to this marathon-based work, right? We don't see change every day or every month, but we know it's there, and we get closer to it every time we take steps and do good organizing and community with each other. So for some next steps, I alluded to this earlier in the training, but we'll be sending an email that'll have a lot of information in it. So hopefully you don't feel too overwhelmed when you open it, but it's got a toolkit that really has everything that you need in this role to get off the ground, between the zip list and language, our social media handles, templates to use for flyers or QR codes, just all kinds of wonderful things. So take the time to sift through that toolkit and see what's in there. We'll also be providing training guidelines, basically the written format of what we just went through. It does have a few additional points that we don't have the time to get into tonight in an hour, so do look through the training guidelines and see that it bridges up this information that you learned this evening. And within that email, there will also be two very simple forms for you to sign. The volunteer policy agreement is really just like a code of conduct, like organizing with respect and care, and you're not speaking on behalf of media for 350 Colorado. Very, very straightforward things like that. But if you have any questions, please let me know. And then the emergency contact form is primarily important for any instances in which we're going to be in person together potentially. I'm coming to an event, we're putting on something together, tabling together. So you may not need to fill it out immediately, but it doesn't hurt to just do it and have it on file for us in case we ever need that information while we're in person together. And then it's really not too far out. It's kind of wild. It's only 2 weeks from today. But we have a movement building committee that meets every other month. And August is the rotation for the next meeting. So it's at 6 p.m. on Zoom, 2 weeks from today. I'm hoping to use it just as a very open-ended gathering opportunity to bring not only all of us here together in this group, but of the first training group as well. And give us all an opportunity to connect, check in, see what's working and what's not, and find some shared power and move forward into September and the next month. So if you're interested in that calendar invite for that, I can send it to you directly. Just let me know. Otherwise, there'll be information in it in the follow-up email as well. So want to keep some group collective space for all of us together as we move forward and build this strong, united, diversified movement across all of Colorado. Because this is a newer project or program for us, we are definitely in that position of wanting to learn more and improve and do things better each time. So if you have the means to just, casually drop in the chat on a scale of 1 to 5, how effective you found this training to be tonight. You will not hurt our feelings. Trust me, we're here to learn and adapt. If you'd rather take that survey anonymously, we do have a link to that in the follow-up email tomorrow that you can just share a couple notes there too. If you felt like we shared too little, too much, what have you, just let us know. We're here to collaborate, be good partners with y'all. And with that, just have to really thank you all so much for taking time out of your day and your week to make this happen. This came together on a slightly smaller timeline than is normal for us. So a big shout out to all of you and to Sadie and everyone that just helped be able to come together as a group, which is so much more fun than doing this training one-off or sometimes even watching a recording. So that is really our last thing that we have for you this evening. Here are our sources for some of the things we shared on. You will have these slides to look through at your leisure as well. But we will hang out here, stop the recording, and answer any questions that folks have.